You was humiliated, playing the victim, but now you're the gangster. You need to pick a side. Do you want to be the victim or do you want to be the gangster? Get away from me in the Go away.
But it was just always fascinating to me because I did get a moniker of being like a diva, which I never felt I deserved.
Owned by artists.
Okay.
You think you would want to be a piece of that? If you look at Get a selfie.
I do literally is I open my arms up, so it's gonna be an amazing day. Like I try to do an affirmation right away.
It's funny how one of J.Lo's songs is called On the Floor when our girl from the supposed block is apparently far from having her feet on the ground. She's practically levitating at this point with how far her head is up in the clouds. Would you want to work with someone who was at a Diddy party? Not only that, but with someone who used to date him? So I'm curious what repercussions will be for our girl, Jenny from the block. They reportedly dated in 1999 to 2001, but ended it as rumors about Sean Combs started to speculate that he was having an affair with J.Lo. But with everything that has been happening with Puff, people are questioning why they really broke it off in the early 2000s. A news outlet reported Jennifer is ignoring all questions about Diddy, but you can't ignore the anxiety that comes every time his name is mentioned. She's at the point now where she's getting PTSD over it. She's terrified where this will all end as far as her involvement goes. It's likely she'll be formally interrogated. I'm curious as to why you're scared, Jenny. Will you eventually tell us what really went down if, well, something did? Are you scared that what might be leaked could also ruin your career? Elon Musk also jumps in to stir the pot, stating that Lopez's opinion shouldn't even matter since she didn't warn people about her ex-boyfriend. He does make a good point that there had to be celebrities who knew about what was going on and decided to stay silent. Does that also include you, Lopez? People claim that she isn't a partier either, and yet there you are at one of Diddy's 4th of July parties? I don't like that she's yet to say anything about it either. This doesn't look good on her part, and if she doesn't want to speak out soon, who knows how many strings will be cut from her. My favorite video of Lopez, at least that I'm aware of, was that infamous TikTok video of her at the Met Gala when she was being asked what she was wearing. I didn't even realize she was a host for the Met Gala as well until the TikToker by the name of Who Is a Div stated so. I'm pretty sure we've all seen this by now, but I also have a bit of my own words to say on the matter. This is also by no means trying to cover up her butt for some of the other out of touch things she's done to people, but I do still try to see from all perspectives and not let my own bias get the better of me. This video is very quick. Lopez is trying to get up a pair of stairs in a clearly uncomfortable dress. A reporter tries to ask her what she's wearing, and Lopez gives her a rather annoyed look as if the reporter had said something rude to her before answering the question. People use this video a lot when trying to add to her diva personality, especially when she is a supposed host for the Met Gala, and you're responding to reporters like that. Continuing on with the dissecting, you see the struggle even in her legs at how she's having a hard time lifting them properly. She even has to hold hands from 2 different people to do this for only a couple of steps. Now, a part of me thinks, yeah, if I'm in a dumb, uncomfortable dress trying my best to make it to the top of the stairs as quickly and flawlessly as possible, I'd be a little annoyed too when I need to stop and chat real quick about the dress. But guess what, J.Lo? You're a celebrity at a Met Gala right now, and one of the #1 questions that everyone gets asked, no matter where they are in the room, is what you are wearing. I'm sure you're well versed in this as well. The reporter was clearly doing her job, and it's your job as both a host and an A-list artist to keep up that stardom appearance and personality. The reporter probably already struggled getting in there to do her job, and this was maybe her one opportunity. Celebrities like this do baffle me when they don't look at the bigger picture here. Alright, so which is it, J.Lo? Do you want people to be at your beck and call for your every whim? Or do you want that independent modern woman appearance? Because gosh forbid someone who works for you tries to hold the door open for you. I get it. I mean, realistically I never will, but I understand your point of view of always being under a microscope for your every move. That any step you take will be viewed by the paparazzi or public somewhere. But was the look you gave your bodyguard really necessary? I also didn't appreciate how you smiled at him in the beginning, but then you're quick to give him such a snake-like eye roll when he's trying to make your life easier. It wasn't even for that long. He waited until your hand touched the door to let it go. Now, I love to dissect videos like these a bit more, and there was a part that caught my attention. There is a moment while he's trying to hold the door open where it almost looks like he says something to her. It's hard to tell because his arm covers his mouth, but you can kind of see it with the head movements. Probably something along the lines of, "I got it." Oh, buddy, you messed up big time. Don't you know that one of Jenny's rules is to never speak to her? Consider yourself fired by the next morning, you poor soul. Speaking of rules, have any of y'all heard some of these so-called guidelines you have to follow if you ever plan on working for her? This source comes from Your Tango, who gives us an insight to the lives, or I would say sentences, of her staff members and assistants. As we saw in the previous video, Jenny's #1 rule on the top of this list is to never speak or make eye contact with her. Girl, you've got to be kidding me. Can you seriously go for a whole day, or should I say your whole life, of never speaking to people who work for you? I think it's sad to imagine you having to write down your breakfast request for your own personal chef rather than just telling him. Not stating this is true, but I would not be surprised. #2 is that she will fire you if you ask for an autograph. This rule was allegedly made by people online after a maid who was working in a hotel that Lopez was staying at during a tour in Germany supposedly lost her job the next morning after she asked for an autograph. The employee was told by the company that Lopez had complained about the event, but the celebrity was quick to say she would never choose to get a fan fired, and explains that the maid was allegedly let go because the employee decided to bust through the room unannounced. Rule numero 3, and this one personally is just plain silly. She will not work with Virgos. Well, I'm a Capricorn, so I should be safe, right? This one comes from Jenny supposedly firing everyone who was a Virgo during her auditioning process for a tour. Heather Morris, being a dancer who was auditioning, and a Virgo, was allegedly dismissed because of her sign after Lopez asked all the dancers who were Virgos to raise their hand. I personally don't use zodiacs to decide whether or not I want to work with someone, but rather the actions they do as their own person. Rule number 4. Everything must be white. It's interesting reading about this and learning about Diddy's all-white clothing parties. Coincidence? I think not. Rule number 5 is pretty closely related to the first one, where if she did not need to speak to someone, gosh forbid the agony, she made her personal assistants do it for her. Apparently even going as far as refusing to give a drink order when a flight attendant asked. I just said, "What can I get you to drink?" But Jennifer refused to even acknowledge me. She turned her head away and told her personal assistant, "Please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and a lime," the flight attendant told Star. She wouldn't even look at me. It was sad. She seems so sweet in her movies. Girl, speaking 7 words to a flight attendant isn't going to kill you. Last but not least, if you're expecting to get paid by the diva, don't count on it. Her last rule, apparently, is not paying her staff the proper amount that they deserve. From chauffeurs to literal managers, Lopez apparently likes to keep things cheap, as we've seen her taking back tips that were given to servers when she would go out for dinners. We've gotten quite the spectacle when it comes to the public, but what about stories that supposedly happened behind closed doors? This comes right from the heart of the Lopez family, the nannies. Unlike her other staff members, however, these employees were paid exceptionally well, and rumored to even be paid roughly $2,250 a week. In this case though, the money just wasn't enough to keep 3 of the nannies from leaving. An insider explains, normally people who make huge sums of money have loads of professional and social obligations. Hire a nanny for each child, especially for newborns. But it is as if Jennifer expects one nanny not only to take care of both twins, but to work 16-hour days 7 days a week. I know nothing of what it means to be a nanny, but as someone who used to work around kids for up to 10 hours at the most, yeah, it's not easy. The first nanny for these twins apparently hit the road just after 1 week, and apparently wasn't even given any breaks during those hours. The same happened with the second nanny, who lasted a bit longer than the first, but left for the same reasons. How would you feel about having to ask someone to miss their wedding because J.Lo needed to talk to them about their documentary? Their own wedding. That's what this one YouTuber, who goes by the name of Unlucky Pickle, shows us in this clip about one of the scenes of Jenny's documentary. It starts off by Jennifer being told of all the people who aren't available to be a part of her documentary, which makes sense, considering how you're so incredibly busy that your own kids had to tell you to chill out. It doesn't stop there though, guys. the entitlement that this woman has, the audacity, the sheer courage, might I say. She tells her assistant to contact Derek Hugh, to which her assistant tells her he can't. He's in a wedding. I can understand the confusion at one point because the assistant is a little unclear that it's his wedding and quickly says his wedding in a passing. I don't think J.Lo caught onto that part though, because it's clear she's in her own world with this documentary, but the expression that she gives at the end as if Derek just cussed her out personally destroys me. After a moment of silence, she then still goes, "Call him," to which the assistant reluctantly agrees.
Jennifer Lopez has made a lot of enemies in Hollywood, so let's take a look at 5 celebrities that really warned us about Jennifer Lopez. Starting off, we have Ojani Noah. Although J.Lo's short-lived marriage to Ojani Noah ended in 1998, it seems that her ex still can't stand her. Now, despite the fact that they were only married for 9 months, Noah has been trying to slander his former flame and keep his name in the news by any means possible. In 2006, he set out to publish a tell-all book dubbed The Unknown Truth, a passionate portrait of a serial thriller, which Jennifer stopped with a lawsuit, claiming that her ex was breaking their confidentiality agreement. She was then awarded $545,000 in damages, and Noah was slapped with a court order, which forbade him from criticizing, casting in a negative light, or otherwise disparaging Jennifer. Just 3 years later, he made headlines again when he threatened to release videos taped during the pair's honeymoon, showing the pop star in a revealing lack of clothing and in sexual situations, especially in the hotel room, causing her to file a $10 million lawsuit against him. Meanwhile, during a 2016 appearance on Million Dollar Matchmaker, he dumped the blame on his former wife, saying that she caused their split, claiming, "I was looking forward to being with her for the rest of my life. It didn't happen. She made the choice of her career instead of me." Now, after Jennifer tied the knot with Ben Affleck in July 2022, Ojani publicly spoke about her marriage. He said, "I wish her and Ben the best, but I'm not convinced it will last," he told the Daily Mail that month. Jen loves being in love, but she's been engaged 6 times. Ben is husband number 4, I was husband number 1, and she told me I was the love of her life. Then there's Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj and Jennifer Lopez first exchanged jabs during a 2012 American Idol episode when Nicki performed and the latter was working as a judge. Now, after the rapper finished her set, she asked, "I was hoping maybe I could come back and be a guest judge. J.Lo, can you scoot over a bit?" Now, this was awkward. Then J.Lo replied back, "I don't know if there's enough room for the both of us." Now, not letting go, Nicki got fired up and told the Hollywood Reporter backstage she didn't seem to be having it, but she's gonna have it, before trying to smooth things over, saying we were just joking around. Fast forward to 2015, however, and things between the two did not seem to be any better. When J.Lo opened the American Music Awards with a melody of songs that included an excerpt from Nicki's Anaconda, there was one person in the audience who appeared to be totally unimpressed: Nicki herself. Now, as the camera cut to her, her emotionless face undeniably said it all. Now we have Rosie Perez. On the surface, it seems like Rosie Perez and Jennifer, who have known each other for decades as they met in 1991 at an open casting call for In Living Color Fly Girls Dancers, were great friends. But despite having a lot in common, according to Rosie's 2014 memoir, Handbook for an Unpredictable Life, there's no love between them. In the book, Rosie recalled their time working together on the show and took the opportunity to paint J.Lo negatively. All of the girls were coming into my office complaining how she was manipulating wardrobe, makeup, and me, all to her advantage, she wrote, accusing J.Lo of acting like some ghetto biatch, screaming and pounding her chest. Now, although J.Lo left In Living Color after just 2 seasons, Rosie accused the star of keeping their feud alive long after they parted ways. In the book, she portrayed the singer as being two-faced, saying she made disparaging comments about her in Hollywood, then acted friendly. Moving on to Madonna. Now, their feud all began when Madonna was asked who she thinks is the best female singer in the world, and she said Jennifer Lopez was a good actress, but she couldn't sing. Then in a 1998 interview, Jennifer fired back at Madonna, saying she wasn't a good actor while promoting her film Out of Sight. When asked about Madonna's acting skills, J.Lo didn't hold back. Do I think she's a great actress? No. Acting is what I do, so I'm harder on people when they say, oh, I can do that, I can act. I'm like, hey, don't spit on my craft. Now, after the interview was published, J.Lo regretted everything she said about her colleagues and said it was all a joke. However, it was already too late as Madonna had already read the interview and reportedly felt disrespected. Then there was a New Year's Eve party hosted by Donatella Versace that year, which was attended by J.Lo, Madonna, and Christopher Saccone. Now, Christopher explained that Ingrid Karas, Madonna's close friend, ran into the courtyard during the celebration and shouted, "J.Lo is here and we're not talking to her." Now, he said everyone except for him and Donatella Versace gave Jennifer the cold shoulder. And finally, we have Jenna Dewan. Jennifer and Jenna Dewan seemed to get along just fine when they both appeared on NBC's World of Dance. Now, the reality dance competition, which premiered in 2017, saw J.Lo taking on the role of executive producer and judge, while Jenna acted as a host and mentor. Now, the pair, who are both dancers, never showed any signs of animosity on the small screen, but according to OK Magazine, the vibe was very different behind the scenes. Jenna can't stand Jen's over-the-top theatrical fakery, the outlet quotes an unnamed source as saying. Jen never fails to ham it up when the cameras are rolling, and she hijacks the show. It seems she'd prefer if Jenna just stayed in the background. Every situation, even off camera, is micromanaged by J.Lo, and Jenna feels very excluded, the insider concluded. Now, this isn't the first time someone has come forward speaking negatively about working with J.Lo, and I'm sure it won't be the last. Well, that's all for our list of the 5 celebrities that really warned us about Jennifer Lopez. Now, it seems like J.Lo is one of the most hated people in Hollywood, and it seems like she keeps getting worse.
I know that a lot of people have been talking about, like, oh, she doesn't even drink. What's she doing?
We should have listened. These are celebrities that warned us about Jennifer Lopez. Starting off, we have Mariah Carey. There seems to be a long-standing feud between Mariah Carey and Jennifer Lopez, but no one really ever knew why. Well, that was until Mariah published her memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, in September 2020. She not only revealed the root of her feud with J.Lo, but she made sure to throw shade at her. In the book, Mariah slams her ex-husband, Tommy Mottola, and then chairman and CEO of Sony Music Entertainment, accusing him of trying to ruin her career and getting Jennifer Lopez involved. She said that after she played a new song to Sony after she and Tommy ended their relationship, Sony rushed to make a single for another female entertainer on their label, aka J.Lo. Now, things actually got a bit worse and even more obvious, as Mariah had just recently worked on an exciting collab with Ja Rule, who Tommy also convinced to do a song with J.Lo. While J.Lo's I'm Real remix enlisted Ja Rule, Mariah was forced to change her song sample and bring in another rapper for her own remix, choosing Da Brat. J.Lo helped Tommy try to ruin Mariah's career, so I don't blame her for not knowing J.Lo. Next up is Rosie Perez. Rosie Perez met Jennifer in 1991 at an opening casting call for In Living Color's Fly Girl dancers. Now, Rosie was the show's famed Fly Girl choreographer and claims that she was the one who convinced the host and creator to pick Jennifer. Now, they became friends, but things turned sour. Making her debut in September 1991, J.Lo didn't immediately connect with her fellow dancers. All the girls were coming up to my office complaining how she was manipulating wardrobe, makeup, and me all to her advantage, Rosie wrote in her memoir, saying Jennifer thought the girls were just jealous. And though the singer left the show after 2 seasons to pursue an acting career, Rosie claims that she continued to make disparaging comments about her in Hollywood. After being hurt by the alleged comments, Rosie was surprised when Lopez was friendly to her at a nightclub years later. Jennifer came over to me smiling, saying hello as if nothing ever happened, she said. Moving on to her past classmate. Okay, so she's not a celebrity, but one of J.Lo's former classmates has spoken out against the star. Now, if you didn't know, Jennifer recently released her documentary on Amazon Prime called This Is Me Now, a love story, which gave a behind-the-scenes look into her new album, This Is Me Now, and the accompanying movie, The Greatest Love Story Never Told. Now, some fans who watched the documentary took to social media to call Jen out for her lies. In one scene, Jennifer poses in the mirror of her personal gym as she shakes out her hair and reminisces about her childhood in the Bronx. However, TikTok user Photos by Angela slammed the star in a series of videos as she claimed to have gone to the same Catholic high school as Jennifer and accused her of lying about her experience living in the Bronx. She fired, "We both attended an all-girls high school in an Irish and Italian neighborhood, so you weren't running up and down the block." Then there's Natasha Ramos. J.Lo has long been accused of not actually singing on her albums, and singer Natasha Ramos took to TikTok to shed light on the rumor. Natasha, who has a voice very similar to Jennifer's, was hired to sing a demo of Jenny from the Block. The production team liked her voice so much that they asked her to record 5 more songs for the album This Is Me Then, including the song I'm Glad. Now Natasha received $3,500 and a backup singer's credit. However, she claims that as the original demo demonstrates, it is her voice that appears in the final track. Not only in the choruses, it's also her laugh and her yelling from the Bronx. Jennifer only sings in the verse. Now claiming to be a singer and then not really even singing in your songs is just crazy to me. And finally we have Ben Affleck. Ben said that he was hesitant to rekindle a relationship with Jennifer again in an interview with Howard Stern. Now the pair dated from 2002 to 2004, and the end of their first relationship was partially caused by negative media scrutiny. While reflecting on the separation, Ben admitted to Stern, "I got hurt and angry and felt like a fool." However, in June 2021, the couple confirmed that they had rekindled their relationship after nearly 2 decades apart. According to Ben, he felt some hesitancy about attempting a relationship with J.Lo again, as he told Stern that he was worried about the impact the high-profile union would have on his 3 children. He knew that all eyes would be on them again, and that J.Lo knew this and used it to her advantage. From low ticket sales to being exposed for being a fraud, J.Lo's past is catching up with her. So here's our list of dark Jennifer Lopez moments that prove karma is real. Starting off, we have the weak ticket sales. So we all know that J.Lo released an album called This Is Me Now, and that she made a movie for it and then a documentary for it. It debuted at a disappointing number 38 on the Billboard 200, but despite this, J.Lo decided that she would tour with this album. Now J.Lo first announced her tour in the middle of February, initially as the This Is Me Now tour. A week later, another 3 shows were added. However, in mid-March, several tour dates were quietly removed without explanation. Then the tour's name had been changed from This Is Me Now to This Is Me Live, The Greatest Hits. So instead of being on tour for that specific album, she's having one of her own Eras tours. Now it's been cited that low ticket sales is a possible reason for emphasizing J.Lo's back catalog, and if you go on Ticketmaster, there are a lot of tickets left, which is honestly just embarrassing. She should play smaller venues or lower her ticket prices. Next up is that she's a meme. Yes, sometimes being a meme can be good for your career, but it's not for J.Lo. All the memes are making fun of her, and they've gotten millions of likes. Now in her documentary, she recalls her go-to order at her local bodega while growing up. She said, "My go-to order at the bodega was a ham and cheese on a roll with an orange drink, if you know you know, and a small bag of chips." On TikTok, creators from the borough have taken to the internet to express their outright confusion about J.Lo's bodega request. Specifically, people seem to be pretty confused about what exactly the orange drink is. Now some of these creators have actually gone to Bronx bodegas themselves to take stock of all the orange colored drinks available and try to guess which one the superstar was going on about. So no one knows what orange drink you're talking about, J.Lo, and they're all making fun of you. Then there's lying about her upbringing. With her documentary, we got a sneak peek into J.Lo's life, but some fans who watched it took to social media to call out Jen for her lies. Many TikTok commentators said that they see J.Lo as performative and insincere, and accuse her of exaggerating her working class background, as well as her connection to the Bronx. Now in one scene of the documentary, Jennifer poses in the mirror of her personal gym as she shakes out her hair and reminisces about her childhood in the Bronx. Residents of the Bronx responded on the video sharing app TikTok, calling Lopez out for her alleged lack of contribution and connection to the neighborhood, or simply just laughing in response to the clip. One TikTok creator, Photos by Angela, posted a video alleging that she and J.Lo had gone to the same high school, and claims to have waited for years before speaking out, having been annoyed in silence. In the TikTok clip, she bluntly accuses J.Lo of lying and using the residents of the Bronx to look human. Now the other clips from the documentary also drew attention from TikTokers, seemingly showing J.Lo to be self-absorbed. And lastly, we have her rude interview resurfacing. An old interview by J.Lo has resurfaced, and she's not speaking too well about her fellow colleagues in the industry. This is what she had to say about 2 major stars at the time. Gwyneth Paltrow, tell me what she's been in. I swear to God, I don't remember anything she was in. Some people get hot by association. I heard more about her and Brad Pitt than I ever heard about her work. jerk. Then about Madonna, she said, do I think she's a great performer? Yeah. Do I think she's a great actress? No. Acting is what I do, so I'm harder on people when they say, oh, I can do that, I can act. I'm like, hey, don't spit on my craft. The funny thing about this is that Jennifer said this only after having Selena in the movie Anaconda under her belt for her career. Yeah, that's embarrassing, and I'm glad people are calling her out for this behavior.
Puffy's recent arrest on racketeering charges and more things I can't say has sent shockwaves throughout Hollywood, turning the spotlight on his infamous past parties. And as the scandal unfolds, a lot of celebrities once linked to his star-studded events have noticeably remained silent. So in the midst of the controversy, a resurfaced photo from the 4th of July party in the year 2000 has reignited buzz on social media. So in the image we see Puffy in bed alongside Jennifer Lopez, Aaliyah, Andre Harrell, Natane Adcock, and Damon Dash. Most folks are dressed in white, minus Puffy, J.Lo, and Natane, adding to the intrigue of the moment. And then there's another photo. We see only J.Lo and Puffy cuddled up on what appears to be, once again, this oversized bed covered in white pillows. And after seeing the group photo, folks online are calling the industry cruel, wild, awful. Somebody said, poor Aaliyah dealing with Puffy and some other artists who we can't talk about. Well, another wrote, like, Aaliyah specifically was so vulnerable and unprotected, like, OMG, that poor girl was in all the wrong spaces, that industry was so cruel the way they treated her. So look, if you look at the photo without the context, it could capture maybe an intimate, a joyful moment, a playful moment. Or maybe that's just what they want this photo to convey. The cheerful scene now stands in stark contrast to the grave allegations that Puffy currently faces, casting a shadow over those once glamorous memories. Fans on social media have reignited a lot of discussions around the resurfaced photos, with many expressing surprise and reevaluating Jennifer Lopez's silence amid the allegations. They also wonder whether or not the Jenny from the Block singer was left traumatized during her time with the rapper. Somebody said, that divorce with Ben Affleck makes more sense now. The Let's Get Loud singer at the time dated Puffy for like 2 years before calling it quits in 2001. Puffy and J.Lo had a roller coaster of a relationship, and fans want to know, like, just how traumatizing was it for J.Lo? And also, what else is there to say about it? This relationship was one for the history books at the turn of the century. It was turbulent, but hey, according to the duo, they wouldn't change a thing about how it all went about. Or at least that's what they're saying. So when J.Lo previously opened up about the dating history, she explained that the duo met just as she was entering stardom. She was preparing for the release of her debut album, which Puffy helped to produce. Talking to CBS in 2019, she said that he became kind of a mentor to her in that moment. They had this kind of crazy, tumultuous relationship that ended in a bang. And despite the hardships in their relationship, J.Lo recalled the lessons that Puffy taught her while they were together. He gave her so many cues, taught her so many things. She mentioned this in an interview with Access Hollywood in 2014. She'll always be grateful to him for that. She loves that he could be so supportive of her so many years later. There was still so much mutual respect, admiration, and love there. Now, if we're looking at how iconic this relationship was, Puffy was J.Lo's date to the Grammy Awards in the year 2000, where she wore that iconic green Versace dress, the one that we all reference, the reason that we have Google Images. So when you look back at that moment, Puffy told Entertainment Tonight back in 2017, like, it was just a wow moment. They were really stepping up their game as far as what they were wearing, how they were gonna use fashion. He thought it was really gonna change the game as far as for her and for fashion. He didn't know how big it was gonna be, but it was a great moment for her, and he said she deserved it. So on the other hand, J.Lo described this relationship and this point of time as being crazy. She was totally crying, she was going nuts, her whole life was in a tailspin. She said that she knew he was cheating on another woman even though she never technically caught him. Like, she just knew. He'd say he was going to a club for a couple of hours, he'd never come back that night. You trust your instincts. In 2003, J.Lo opened up about her relationship to Vibe magazine, and she explained that it was the first time she was in a relationship with someone who wasn't faithful. News outlets have reported that J.Lo did not deny knocking on hotel doors trying to find Puffy. She's like, I can't remember right now, but I won't say it didn't happen. She mentioned that she left him because, like, she had to think. Does she want to be home in 10 years wondering where somebody is at 3 in the morning? I don't. I need my sleep. The Let's Get Loud hitmaker and the I'll Be Missing You rapper broke up in February of 2001. That's when the rumors of his infidelity began to circulate in the mainstream. Now at the time, Puffy's publicist said that, he confirmed that he and his love, J.Lo, have in fact broken up. He wanted to put all the rumors surrounding the relationship to rest. At that difficult time, they asked for privacy. So then after this, J.Lo explained that she met Chris Judd, a backup dancer. She would have a short marriage with him. And she mentioned, like, coming out of this crazy relationship, she meets this sweet person who's so refreshing. But marriage marriage is not just about love. She thought she had learned that in her first marriage. She loved Chris, she still loves him, he's one of the best people, it wasn't an easy thing to walk away from, but she admitted that they didn't have what it took to make a marriage work. Chris knew that the last thing she ever wanted in this bleeping world was to hurt him. If we're gonna take to social media commentary, somebody's like, hey, has anybody ever considered the fact that J.Lo might be traumatized from Puffy, which is why she can't stay married? Well, look at this. J.Lo revealed in a 2001 interview with Rolling Stone that Puffy would often threaten to divorce her, despite the fact that the two actually never got married. She said, like, a lot. He told me many times, I want a divorce. She explained that this threat would come up often, usually when they were struggling to find time to see each other because hectic schedules, and Puffy, frustrated by their lack of time together, would just say, I'll be away so much, or I can't get away, but where do I send the papers? So after this, J.Lo admitted, like, it was exhausting. She mentioned, like, it was a great time in her life, but it was also scary. They broke up many times before it hit the mainstream news. They got back together, they broke up again, nobody knew about it, it was emotionally exhausting, and she tried to joke. She was like, oh, it was good that I did it when I was young. So Jennifer's first husband, Ojani Noah, previously spoke about how he would get jealous because J.Lo was still spending so much time with Puffy while the two were married. He said, I rang Jen, asked why she was going out with him on dates. She said it was just business, this is what I'm being told I have to do. Her husband was jealous. He was like, he would scream, but you're married. So the pop diva tied the knot with Ojani in 1997. She was married to him for less than a year. One of her friends, one of J.Lo's friends, photographer, journalist, socialite Salma Francesca, believes like J.Lo never got over the romance with Puffy. And look, given all of what we've talked about today, there's a lot of folks online that are questioning why J.Lo hasn't talked out about current events, and it's fueled a lot of speculation and debate. She hasn't really addressed her ex's allegations. Yes, she is busy with her divorce from Ben Affleck. But despite her silence, fans have dredged up a Wendy Williams show interview, which spoke volumes, where J.Lo's mom, Guadalupe or Lupe Rodriguez, really blatantly opposed her daughter getting back together with Puffy, or even the idea of it. So when the duo were dating, there was like this whole thing, there was a Manhattan nightclub event, somebody else kind of got sentenced to something, and it was totally crazy. And yeah, Mama Bear had something to say about it. So besides J.Lo, photos of a lot of Hollywood stars, including Leonardo DiCaprio, have also appeared online at these crazy parties. There was a video where Puffy called the Oscar winner his favorite guest. Sarah Jessica Parker's been pictured at Puffy's events over the years. Marlon Wayans, a frequent guest at these parties, has publicly said, like, I never witnessed anything illegal, I left early. And, you know, everybody's saying things, but I think it's the silence that's really speaking volumes right now. Khloe Kardashian has famously described one bash. She mentioned that folks were in the nude. She talked about things in detail that I can't talk about online. Now, last week, a second judge did refuse to grant bail to Puffy. U.S. District Judge Andrew L. Carter said the government had proved that, there was no freaking way that he could leave and it would be safe for the community, and that he won't, tamper with witnesses. When relationships fizzle out, there's always so many questions about how and why. And when it comes to today's situation, I think there's almost too many questions. So when it comes to celebrities and their ever-happening love lives, Jennifer Lopez is one of the most talked about in Hollywood. Now she's in her post-Ben Affleck 2.0 era, but she's had her fair share of heartache, and recent events have brought her very, well, not troubled, but very interesting dating past into the limelight. Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about? Let's see if I can refresh your memory. So let's go back to the year 2000. Puff Daddy's having a 4th of July party, and there's some photos that we're seeing now that have reignited some buzz. There's an image of him in a bed with J.Lo, Aaliyah, Andre Harrell, Natane Adcock, and Damon Dash, and most folks are dressed in white, minus Puff Daddy, J.Lo, and Natane, adding to some intrigue. And then there's another photo. All you see, J.Lo, Puffy, once again, cuddled up on this oversized bed covered in white pillows that I wouldn't want to run a black light over. Fans on social media have reignited discussions around the resurfaced photos, with a lot expressing surprise and reevaluating Jennifer Lopez's silence amid all of this. They're also wondering, has she been left traumatized by what happened during that era? If you didn't know, Puff Daddy and J.Lo had a roller coaster of a relationship, and fans want to know, why did they break up and what don't we know about what happened there? Their relationship was one in the history books at the turn of the century, but it was also very turbulent, at least according to them. But they're like, oh no, we won't want to change a thing, we learned from it, we grew from it. Okay folks, we're gonna set the timeline here. The duo dated from the year 1999 to the year 2001, so 2 years. And J.Lo claimed that Puffy was the first man to be unfaithful to her, but very specifically, not the ex who manhandled her. So we got that out of the way. But she decided to end the relationship for good after wondering one night, do I want to be home with offspring in 10 years wondering where somebody is at 3 in the morning? Now, when she has previously opened up about this dating history, she mentioned that the duo met just as they were entering stardom. J.Lo was preparing for the release of her debut album, which he helped to produce, and they became an official couple. I believe they actually technically met on the set of her If You Had My Love music video. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. Talking to CBS in 2019, J.Lo said that Puffy became kind of a mentor to her at that time. They had this crazy, tumultuous relationship that ended in a bang. Workplace relationships, folks. We've all had them. There's something. Despite the hardships in the relationship, J.Lo recalled the lessons that she was taught while they were together. She said, he gave me so many cues, taught me so many things. I'll always be grateful to him for that, and I love that he can be so supportive of me so many years later, and there's still so much mutual respect, admiration, and love there. And sure, that's a real cute PR statement, but this relationship was not all, ooh, so cute. These guys were arrested in December of 1999 after they and his bodyguard Anthony Wolf Jones and rapper Shine Barrow got involved in an argument at a club in New York that ended with the firing of weapons. So Puff Daddy, J.Lo, and Anthony left the club. They were chased by the police, and the authorities found a stolen weapon in the car they were driving. So back in the year 2000, J.Lo mentioned to Elle magazine that that whole night, was a complete nightmare from beginning to end for her. She mentioned she was, scared in the car, very scared. She had absolutely no idea what was going on. Nobody did. Obviously, everybody was arrested on weapons and bribery charges, but the ones against J.Lo were dropped, and Puffy was acquitted in the year 2001, so okay. And sure, well, that was obviously a low point of the relationship. There were some high peaks. Puffy was J.Lo's date to the Grammy Awards in the year 2000, the one where she wore the iconic green Versace dress. The reason we have Google Images? So when looking back at that moment, Puffy did mention in an interview in 2017 that it was like just wow. He's like, we were stepping up our game as far as what we were wearing, how we were gonna use fashion. I thought it was gonna really change the game as far as for her and for fashion. Obviously nobody knew how big it was gonna be, but he said like it was a great moment for her, she deserved it. Obviously, 2001, I think it was like February, there's some rumors starting to hit the press. Somebody's cheating. And things go. Puffy's publicist said at the time that yes, these two have broken up. Puff Daddy wanted to put all the rumors surrounding the relationship to rest, and they're like, hey, respect our privacy. And even though Puffy didn't publicly comment on the speculation himself, J.Lo opened up. She opened up in an interview with Rolling Stone that apparently Puffy would often threaten to divorce her, but they were never married. She was like, yeah, a lot. He told me many times I want a divorce. She explained that this threat would come up so often, and it was usually when they were struggling to find time to see each other because hectic schedules, yeah, they get rough. So Puffy, frustrated by their lack of time together, would be like, I'll be away so much, or I can't get away, and he'll say like, okay, where do I send the papers? And it's like, come on, dude, really? So J.Lo revealed that the two had also very different ways of thinking. She was like, he loves to go out. She, at the time, was definitely more of a homebody, and it looks like that love of going out might have gone hand in hand with infidelity. Speaking of Vibe magazine in the year 2003, J.Lo said she never technically caught him, but she just knew. He'd say he was going to the club for a couple of hours and then never come back that night. So J.Lo found herself in this relationship where she was just like, she was hysterical. She felt like she was going crazy. Her whole life felt like it was really in a tailspin. Now, obviously, she does want to keep some details about the relationship private, some that I think we might want to know, but still. And she just admitted like it exhausted her. She told Vanity Fair magazine that it wasn't a great time in her life, it was scary. The two broke up many times before they broke up publicly, but then they get back together, then they break up again, and it was just so emotionally exhausting. And she said something I find really interesting. It's good that I was young, which means like it was that mentally anguishing. Now in the year 2014, J.Lo released her song Booty, and Puffy had all the high praises for that song, and he was like, oh, it's great, it's a work of art. It's something that will go down in history. Yeah, okie dokie, pal. He's like, she'll never give up, which like, okay, that's also an interesting statement. He's like, she's a great friend of mine, I think it's just incredible. I am so lucky to have that great woman in my history. She's one of the greatest I've ever seen. Go girl. He's like, we're great as friends. He's great as a fan rather than a love interest. And it's like, I'm sorry, you're talking about her like she's a possession, she's a person. Now, when J.Lo heard about the praise, she responded very politely. She's like, yeah, we spent almost 3 years of our life together, almost every single day, seeing all the things he's done as a businessman, still being so true to his music and his art, trying to uplift his community. She mentioned how it's the same thing she's tried to do. She once again mentioned that she felt like she learned a lot from him, and I get it. But once again, it still feels very staged, and I'd like to know what she's not saying. So, Why are we talking about all of this? Well, earlier this year, J.Lo opened up about all of her relationships. Or pretty dang close. She had this documentary, The Greatest Love Story Never Told, and it was technically about her main relationship with Ben Affleck. I know, but they dated in the early 2000s, and then they rekindled their love in 2021, got married in 2022. It was one of the biggest will they won't they stories for the longest time, and now we're back in the never try that again situation. And in that documentary, she described being thrown around and manhandled by lovers. She didn't name names. And yes, I know, I mentioned earlier that she has said it wasn't puffy, but still. She mentioned that there were people in her life who said I love you and then didn't do things that were kind of in line with the word love. And now she did clarify by saying I was never in a relationship where I got harmed physically, but she's definitely been, the subject of some unsavory things. And because I'm afraid of lawsuits, once again, she did say it wasn't puffy. And she hasn't made any kind of comment about his allegations. And sure, it might be because she's really busy with that whole divorce thing, but there also might be something more there, and I would like to know.
Number 10, Botox. Has Jennifer had Botox in the past? She would tell you no, but many dermatologists would disagree. Jen started receiving major backlash after the release of her skincare brand J.Lo Beauty. She claimed that this was the secret to her ageless appearance, which many just don't believe. The star shared a makeup-free selfie, and her skin looks a little bit too perfect. She has been quoted in the past saying, "I haven't had Botox to this day. I'm not that person." She went on to claim that it was olive oil and not a procedure of any sort, saying, "My mom used to say that olive oil was a cure-all for everything. So when we went to do this, that was the first thing I said. It has to have olive oil." After this statement, the dermatologist Corey Hartman took to Instagram and wrote his opinion, saying, "I think Jennifer is probably forgetting if she's had Botox, but I know for sure that she's used more than olive oil to maintain that glow." Going on to add, "To each their own, good luck J.Lo with the olive oil, we don't believe you, but we still love you, Jenny." Jennifer shot back though, and when asked about the Botox speculation during an interview with People, she said, "I'm telling you what I do works. Please don't call me a liar, I don't lie about things. I've been pretty honest about my whole life." She even responded to some of them criticism on her Instagram and commented back at fans claiming that she had Botox, saying, "For the 500th millionth time, I have never done Botox or any injectables or surgery." But it seems many are in agreement that it would just be impossible to achieve that look at her age with just olive oil. Number 9, the movie line interview. Was she using this interview as a chance to bash her fellow women in the industry? Or was she, like she has claimed, just in a fan mentality? The movie line interview from 1998 is now infamous because of J.Lo's interesting critiques of other women in the industry. One woman she attacked was Madonna and her acting. When asked about Madonna, she allegedly responded by saying, "Do I think she's great? No. Do I think she's a great performer? Yeah. I think she's a great actress? No. Acting is what I do, and I'm harder on people when they say, oh, I can do that, I can act. And I'm like, hey, don't spit on my craft." Gwyneth Paltrow was another victim of this interview. When asked about Gwyneth, J.Lo responded by saying, "Tell me what she's been in. I swear to God I don't remember anything she's in. Some people get hot by association." Going on to say, "I heard more about her and Brad Pitt than I ever heard about her work." Cameron Diaz was next up in the pretty harsh interview. Jen said when discussing Cameron, "She's a lucky model who's been given a lot of opportunities. I just wish she would have done more with it." She went on to kind of dismiss the actress by saying, "She's beautiful and has a great presence. Though in My Best Friend's Wedding, I thought when directed she's good." She was then asked about this interview 20 years later, and she did admit that she knew it really angered some people. She said at the time, "I was still in that kind of fan mentality, back in the Bronx. And then you go, oh wait a minute, you have to present yourself in the way that you are." Going on to say, "So I learned to be more responsible." Number 8, controlling. One thing I'm sure Jen would deny is how controlling she's been known to be. Sources have come forward to speak about how Jen and Ben Affleck's marriage is going, and it seems like there's a lot that annoys her about him. An insider claims that Ben's smoking habit is a big deal for Jen, as this is one of his long-standing habits. They revealed he's promised to give it up, but with all her nagging, he's smoking even more. Besides his most likely very annoying smoking habit, the source also reveals Ben may also have a bit of a cleanliness problem as well, sharing Ben doesn't clean up after himself, which really irritates Jennifer. The source also discusses the way Jennifer goes about nagging
her husband, saying she's been known to yell at him and point her finger. It makes people wonder if she mistakes him for a dog. Not only this, but Jen really threw Ben under the bus when she suggested in an interview that Ben had no idea how to dress himself. She recalled a conversation with him and said, "I did kind of like say, you need to be, you're a movie star, you should wear a suit. You should do this with your hair." Going on to say he didn't do anything he didn't want to do. He had some good fashion moments when he was with me. Number 7, the makeup artist. This is more of an instance of J.Lo believing a lie and then completely running with it. In the mid-2000s, Jen really came after her longtime makeup artist, Scott Barnes. This came after rumors began circulating that someone in her inner circle had leaked information about her private marriage ceremony to Mark Anthony. During an interview, Scott explained what it was like to be basically banished by Jen for a whole year until it was revealed that someone else leaked the information. He said at the time, "It was like I had the Black Plague." He went on to explain that while he did get his job back, Jen supposedly didn't apologize. Scott revealed, "I went back to work with her and we just never spoke about it again, which is even weirder." Number 6, the Mariah Carey feud. It's been a long-known rumor that Mariah Carey is J.Lo's #1 nemesis, and after some of the reported incidents, it really does seem like this rumor is true. This feud dates back to the 90s and they have both since denied that there is no bad blood, but that just really does not seem to be the truth. Allegedly, the beginning to this long fight began because of Mariah's ex-husband Tommy. In her 2020 memoir, The Meaning of Mariah, she explained how she was working on the single Loverboy when she obtained a sample from the Yellow Magic Orchestra's song, what she was going to use for her single. But it seems like Tommy, who was the head of Sony Music, was a bit bitter over the divorce and had other plans. Mariah wrote in her memoir saying, "After hearing my new song using the same sample I used, Sony rushed to make a single for another female entertainer on their label." But even after Mariah continued telling fans and interviewers that she didn't know J.Lo, it wasn't hard to figure out that this was who she was referring to. It really only went downhill from here though, and during a 2002 interview, Mariah threw more shade J.Lo's way. When asked about her feud with J.Lo, she responded by saying, "There are rivalries, but I don't think she has anything to do with me. My whole thing is singing and writing songs. I've been doing this my whole life, and singing is first and foremost. It's a God-given talent and I'm grateful for it. Her thing is something different." Of course, J.Lo was aware of what was being said about her to the public, and during an appearance on Watch What Happens Live, she ended up giving her side of the story. When asked about Mariah, she responded by saying, "I don't have a feud against her at all. I know from back in the day I've read some things that she said about me that weren't the greatest." She continued on by saying, "But we have never met, we don't know each other. I think it's from word of mouth of things that have happened in the past." Number 5, trouble in paradise. Has Jen been lying about her struggles of married life? When they first got together, an insider revealed that Jennifer was walking on air. But now it appears she's come down to reality, as multiple sources have claimed the honeymoon phase has worn off since settling into their life in their home in LA. While both are working with busy careers and the stress of blending two families, could it all just be too much? A source tells the press they're back to the grind of work and parenting. Reality has set in. The same source also explained that only recently, Ben stormed out of the house following an intense fight. Allegedly, the couple have been arguing non-stop since the wedding. A second source says, before the wedding, Jennifer put on an Oscar-worthy performance for Ben, pretending to be perfect and an easygoing wife, claiming Ben was blinded by love and just didn't know what he was really getting himself into. The two have been spotted at various events and look to be fighting in various clips. But could this just be out of context moments, or is there some truth to what the sources have revealed? Number 4, demanding. Being called a diva throughout her career is nothing new to Jen. She has a bad rep in Hollywood for being supposedly somewhat of a diva, and the evidence is pretty incriminating. Reportedly, Jennifer refused to travel for a commercial that she agreed to do. For the commercial, she was meant to drive through the Bronx, where she grew up, to show what inspired her. But reportedly, she refused to leave LA, forcing a body double to have to step in and do all the work to make the ad for her. Her hotel demands are also known to be excessive. Allegedly, while staying at a hotel in London, she demanded a suite that was fit for royalty, with roses, specific brand of candles, and baked cookies with plain M&Ms. Insiders have come forward to share their experiences as staff when encountering J.Lo. Reportedly, while flying, Jen refuses to acknowledge any staff. An airline attendant claims he offered her a drink, but she didn't even look at him before looking at her personal assistant and said, "Please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke with lime." Even with all the celebrities and other staff members coming forward to discuss their experiences with Jen, she's continued to deny her diva energy. She said during an interview, "I got a moniker of being a diva, which I never felt I deserved, which I don't deserve." Going on to say, "I've always been a hard worker, on time, and doing what I'm supposed to do." Number 3, her friendship with Garner. How are J.Lo and Ben's ex-wife, Jennifer Garner, really getting along? While the two would say that there's no bad blood, is that really the truth? While one source claims that the two have forged a friendship, other insiders
claims seem to contradict this. During an interview, Garner shares how she's been working hard to not look at any news regarding her or her ex-husband. She said, "I work hard to not see either of us in the press. It doesn't make me feel good, even if it's something nice about one of us." She went on to add, "I don't need to see my family made into a meme." After she was asked if she has seen the Ben memes, and she replied by saying no, but admitting that he is quite meme-worthy. This didn't sit well with J.Lo at all, and an insider shared, "It's Jennifer's way of saying Ben looks miserable, and all of his appearances in the public are lame. How could J.Lo not take it personally?" Adding that the comments made were a big FU to J.Lo. The source further revealed the star's feelings, saying, "Part of her wants to fire back and tell Jennifer off, but she's smart enough to not make too much of a scene publicly. So it'll all be up to Ben to be the referee. Seems like maybe she's some pretty strong opinions that she'd rather the press not know." Number 2, the 2003 split. Seems like Ben and Jen have varying views as to why they called off their first wedding back in 2003. Jen supposedly has claimed that the two just weren't seeing a future with similar visions together. A source told Page 6 they were on very different paths at the end of it. Jennifer was ready to settle down and have kids, but Ben wasn't keen on giving up his bachelor lifestyle just yet. Going on to say she got tired of waiting for him to come around, even though it broke her heart to end things. But is this what Ben felt at the same time? In a conversation that was released after the two split, revealed how Ben hated all the attention the wedding was getting, which is one of the reasons the two called for the original postponement of their big day. He reportedly says, "It's driving me crazy, everything is out of control." And at number 1, we have Selena. Reportedly, Jen can't handle media attention and critics as well as she'd like people to believe. Back in 1997, Jen was criticized by a journalist for her role in the film Selena. Though many people loved the movie and Jen's performance, one journalist really felt the star's wrath for not loving it. The journalist wrote at the time, "The one thing you don't do when you walk into this movie is say, 'Who's that girl?'" During an interview, Jen said, "There are certain people marked for death already. I have my little list of journalists that have treated me unfairly." It didn't end there though, and it looked like she really couldn't handle the heat. Jen was quoted by Animated Times that when asked about the review, she said, "I was totally happy with my work on Selena, but out of the 700 reviews, I can quote, 'The one thing you don't do when you walk into this movie is say, who's that girl?'" Going on to say, "When another person from the same magazine came up to me, the first thing I said to her was, 'You tell that other bee that writes for your magazine that I'm never talking to her again.'" Definitely a note for other journalists is don't write a bad review about J.Lo because she will never forget.
Starting us off at number 10, we have controlling Ben Affleck. One rumor Jennifer would definitely try to hide is how controlling she's been rumored to be. Several sources have spoken up about the state of Jennifer and Ben Affleck's marriage, mentioning numerous things that annoy her about him. According to an insider, one significant issue for Jen is Ben's smoking habit, which has been a long-standing behavior of his. The insider shared he promised to give it up, but with all her nagging, he's smoking more than ever. In addition to his smoking habit, it seems Ben might have a cleanliness problem as well. The source shared, "Ben doesn't clean up after himself, which irritates Jennifer." The source also criticized Jennifer's approach to nagging her husband, saying she's been known to yell at him and point her finger. It makes people wonder if she mistakes him for a dog. Moreover, Jennifer didn't hold back in an interview when she suggested that Ben had no fashion sense. Recounting a conversation with him, she stated, "I did kind of like say, you need to be, you're a movie star. You should wear a suit, You should do this with your hair." Going on to say, he didn't do anything he didn't want to do. He had some good fashion moments when he was with me. At number 9, we have the Botox accusations. Despite Jennifer's denial, numerous dermatologists claim that she has had Botox done in the past. Following the launch of her skincare brand J.Lo Beauty, Jennifer faced significant backlash. She attributed her ageless appearance to her skincare products, but many fans remained skeptical. And in a makeup-free selfie she shared, her skin appeared unusually flawless, raising suspicions. Jennifer has previously stated, "I haven't had Botox to this day, I'm not that person," asserting that olive oil, not cosmetic procedures, was her secret. Dermatologist Corey Hartman challenged her claim on Instagram, suggesting that Jennifer might be conveniently forgetting any previous Botox treatments, and emphasized that olive oil alone couldn't produce her results. Quote, "I think Jennifer is probably forgetting if she's ever had Botox, but I know for sure that she's used more than olive oil to maintain that glow." In response, Jennifer defended her practices in an interview, doubling down that her approach works, saying, "I'm telling you what I do works, Please don't call me a liar. I don't lie about things. I've been pretty honest about my whole life. She also engaged with fans on Instagram, denying accusations of Botox use. However, many people agree that achieving her youthful look solely through olive oil would be impossible given her age. At number 8, we have interview with Movie Line. Was she using this interview as an opportunity to criticize her fellow women in the industry, or was she genuinely just expressing her admiration for them? J.Lo's 1998 Movie Line interview has gained notoriety due to her interesting critiques of other women in the industry. One of the targets of her criticism was Madonna and her acting skills. When asked about Madonna, she supposedly responded by saying, "Do I think she's a great performer? Yeah. Do I think she's a great actress? No. Acting is what I do, so I'm harder on people when they say, oh, I can do that, I can act. I'm like, hey, don't spit on my craft." Gwyneth Paltrow was another person J.Lo targeted in this interview. When asked about Gwyneth, J.Lo replied, "I swear to God, I don't remember anything she was in. Some people get hot by association." She further commented, "I heard more about her and Brad Pitt than I ever heard about her work." Cameron Diaz was the next subject of J.Lo's harsh remarks. When discussing Cameron, she said, "A lucky model who's been given a lot of opportunities, I just wish she would have done more with." She also somewhat dismissed the actress by adding, "She's beautiful and has a great presence though, and in my best friend's wedding, I thought, when directed, she can be good." 20 years later, when asked about this interview, she admitted knowing that it had upset some people. She explained, "I was still in that kind of fan mentality back in the Bronx. And then you go, oh, wait a minute, you have a responsibility to present yourself in the way that you are and not let people interpret it in a way that could be that you're this hurtful, callous person." At number 7 is the makeup artist banishment. This situation is a prime example of J.Lo believing a complete lie and then running with it. Back in the mid-2000s, she went after her longtime makeup artist, Scott Barnes, like nobody's business. Why? Well, there were rumors floating around that someone in her inner circle spilled the beans about her secret wedding to Mark Anthony. And let me tell you, Jen was not happy about it. Scott spilled the tea during an interview, revealing that he was practically banished by J.Lo for a whole year, even though it turned out someone else leaked the info. He said at the time, "It was like I had the plague." But here's the kicker. Even after they started working together again, Jen never bothered to apologize. They just swept it under the rug like it never happened. He said, "I went back to work with her and we just never spoke about it again." Talk about weird. And number 6 is the relationship with Ben's ex. How are J.Lo and Ben's ex-wife Jennifer Garner getting along? While both parties may claim that there's no beef, the reality might be a bit more complicated. While one source suggested that the two have developed a friendship, other insiders' accounts seem to contradict this. During an interview, Garner revealed her deliberate efforts to avoid any news about herself or her ex-husband. She said, "I work hard not to see either of us in the press. It doesn't make me feel good, even if it's something nice about one of us." She went on to add, "I don't need to see anyone in my family made into a meme." When asked if she had seen the Ben memes, she replied saying no, but acknowledged that he tends to attract meme-worthy attraction. These comments didn't sit well with J.Lo, according to an insider who shared, "It's Jennifer's way of saying Ben looks miserable and all his appearances in public are lame. How could J.Lo not take it personally?" The source further disclosed J.Lo's feelings, noting that while part of her may want to respond and confront Garner, she's smart enough not to make a public scene. So it seems that Ben will play the role of mediator between the two, and that Jennifer Garner holds strong opinions about J.Lo that she prefers to keep away from the public eye. And number 5 is trouble in Bennifer Paradise. Is J.Lo being less than truthful about the realities of married life? When she and Ben first got together, insiders revealed that Jennifer was over the moon. But now it seems like she's come crashing back down to reality. Multiple sources have chimed in, claiming that the honeymoon phase has faded since they settled into their LA home. According to one source, they're back to the grind of work and parenting, reality has set in. That's not all though. The same source spilled the tea that Ben stormed out of the house recently after a heated argument. Allegedly, the couple has been at each other's throats non-stop since tying the knot. Another insider shared, before the wedding, Jennifer put on an Oscar-worthy performance for Ben, pretending to be the secret, easygoing wife-to-be, claiming Ben was blinded by love and just didn't really know what he was getting into. Now we've seen them at events where they appear to be in the midst of a tiff, but could those moments have been taken out of context, or is there some truth to what these sources are dishing out? At number 4, we have the Selena film. It looks like Jen can't handle media attention and critics as well as she'd like us to believe. Back in 1997, she got pretty riled up over a journalist's criticism of her role in Selena. While lots of people loved the movie and Jen's performance, the particular journalist didn't feel the same way. They wrote, "The one thing you don't do when you walk out of this movie is say, 'Who's that girl?'" Later in an interview, Jennifer later addressed this, saying, "There are certain people marked for death already. I have my little list of journalists that have treated me unfairly." But the drama didn't stop there, and it seems she couldn't let this critique go. In an interview with the Animated Times, she revealed, "I was totally happy with my work on Selena, but out of the 700 reviews, I can quote the one who said the one thing you don't do when you walk out of this movie is say, 'Who's that girl?'" Going on to say, "When another person from the same magazine came up to me, the first thing I said to her was, 'You tell that other bee that writes for your magazine that I'm never talking to her again.' So note to self, don't write a bad view about J.Lo unless you want her to hold a grudge forever." Next at number 3, we have her feud with Mariah Carey. Everyone and their cousin knows about the long-standing rumor that Mariah Carey is J.Lo's ultimate arch-nemesis, and let me tell you, some of the reported incidents make it seem like there might be some truth to it. This feud goes way back to the 90s, and despite their denials of any bad blood, it's pretty clear that something isn't right between them. So here's the scoop. Apparently it all started because of Mariah's ex-husband, Tommy. In her 2020 memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, she spilled the tea about working on her single Loverboy and using a sample from a Yellow Magic Orchestra song. But here's the kicker. Her ex, Tommy, who was the big shot at Sony Music, seemed a tad bitter about the divorce and decided to play dirty. Mariah spilled the beans in her memoir, saying, "After hearing my new song using the same sample I used, Sony rushed to make a single for another female entertainer on their label." Now, Mariah never explicitly mentioned J.Lo by name, but it wasn't rocket science to figure out who she was talking about, and things only went downhill from there. In a 2002 interview, Mariah threw some serious shade J.Lo's way. When asked about their feud, she coolly replied, "There are rivalries, but I don't think she has anything to do with me. My whole thing is singing, writing songs. I've been doing this my whole life. Singing is first and foremost. It's a God-given talent that I'm grateful for. Her thing is something different." Then during an appearance on Watch What Happens Live, J.Lo finally gave her side of the story. When asked about Mariah, she shot back saying, "I don't have a feud against her at all. I know from back in the day I've read things that she said about me that were not the greatest." J.Lo didn't hold back, adding, "But we have never met, we don't know each other. I think it's from word of mouth of things that have happened in the past." At number 2 is the first Jennifer breakup. It seems like Ben and Jen have different memories of why they called off their first wedding back in 2003. According to sources, Jen supposedly claimed that they didn't envision a future with compatible goals. As one source told Page 6, they were on very different paths at the end of it. Jennifer was ready to settle down and have kids, but Ben wasn't keen on giving up his bachelor lifestyle just yet. The source added she got tired of waiting for him to come around even though it broke her heart to end things. However, did Ben feel the same way at the time? A leaked conversation that occurred after their split revealed that Ben despised the excessive media attention surrounding their wedding, which ultimately led to the initial postponement. He allegedly said, "It's driving me crazy, everything is spiraling out of control." And finally, at number 1, we have her diva behavior. Jen has been labeled a diva throughout her entire career, and it's a reputation that seems to have stuck with her in Hollywood. Reportedly, Jennifer refused to travel for a commercial that she agreed to do. For the commercial, she was going to be driving through the Bronx, the neighborhood where she grew up, to show what inspired her. But she apparently refused to leave LA, forcing a body double to have to step in and do all the work to make the ad for her. Her demands when staying at hotels are also known to be way over the top. Apparently, during her stay at a London hotel, she insisted on a suite fit for royalty, complete with roses, specific candies, freshly baked cookies, and plain M&Ms. Insiders who have encountered J.Lo as staff members have also come forward to share their experiences. For instance, while on a flight, Jen reportedly ignored a flight attendant asking her for her drink order and instead spoke through her personal assistant to relay her request. Without even looking at him, she turned to her personal assistant and said, "Please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime." Yikes. Despite numerous accounts from other celebrities and staff members recounting their encounters with Jen, she has consistently denied her diva persona. In an interview, she defended herself by saying, "I got a moniker of being a diva, which I never felt I deserved," going on to say, "I've always been a hard worker, on time, doing what I'm supposed to do."